I'd like to give two people a chance to respond, Paul and then Mona, and then we'll have like 10 or 15 minutes. So if they could do 2 minutes each, and then we'll have 15 minutes of discussion. I also am hoping that in this discussion, people will bring up the fact that vaccine was denied to the same population, and so the crime was kind of doubled by the fact that remediation that was available wasn't used. So, Paul?
First of all, you guys are already know that you're heroes of mine and Mara. It's wonderful to hear your, the other three. Like I'm used to their courage and brilliance, but your points about legalism are very important. There's no question that inside the UN, it was lawyers who, lawyers for the UN who really made it impossible to have a discussion about moral compromise. I mean, almost impossible. I don't think that's an exaggeration. My question, and there's a public health discussion which is worth having. I know we don't have time for it. My question is really mostly for Mario and Brian, who know this story well, but it didn't come up in your presentations. The question of using legal means, and the way that you just put it, as Mario and Brian, and I'm sure B is too, know, this is not the first time we've tried to sue an international body claiming immunity, and I was deeply involved in the previous case, which was a lawsuit against the Inter-American Development Bank for illegally, in contrast with its own charter, blocking aid to Haiti at the behest of the U.S. government in order to dislodge the democratically elected government of Haiti, which it succeeded in doing. Now, among its friends, helping hands, were the origin state of liberty, fraternity, and equality, who helped to remove, through kidnapping, the president of Haiti, again, elected. And this was, in part, I was involved in this other part as well, of pressing for reparations from the French for the enormous amounts of money that Haiti paid for liberating itself from them as slaves, which went on until 1950, whatever. Okay, so having been involved in both of those efforts, as the chief fundraiser for the lawsuit against the Inter-American Development Bank, which won me only scorn and being ejected from. Actually, the director of PAHA wouldn't let them, the president of the IDB, eject me from a meeting again. But this is recent history, right? And then the other one, who cares what happens to me? I do actually. But the French, who invited me to comment I was the only American who was invited to comment on the question of reparations, also punished Partners in Health, which was trying to do work to, material assistance. Why I keep going back to material assistance? So, and in Mario too, I'm saying, as you know, this is not the first one. This is the third one we've been involved in, and in both cases, the legal mechanisms, or maybe I should say, not only did they fail, they may have weakened, they may have helped result in a coup against a government, a democratically elected government, and certainly caused no small amount of discomfort and pain to gazillions of Haitians, right? So I guess that's what I'm saying is, what about those recent, there's never any scientific data about this. As Mario said, we carried samples of stool here within weeks and had the genetic fingerprint, which, published in the New England Journal. So the often cited report from the UN scientists, okay, granted, maybe we're not scientists, but we did the genetic fingerprinting right here at Harvard, and published articles in the medical press within really literally weeks of the outbreak on the Lancet, New England Journal, et cetera. So that's my question is, do we learn any lessons? And, Brian and you and Mario, they're old guys now, about those previous attempts, one involving reparations, the other involving trying to get past immunity. with a substantial amount of investment, private money invested in the lawsuit. So what have we learned from those two things? Are they not related to this, and how can we make them related, and make this add up to more than the sum of its parts? Or when should we be frightened, as Mara said, that this might backfire?
Let me try to answer it. So first, on the IDB suit, that was about the IDB stopped these water projects, and it was what we call smart sanctions. They were designed to bring poor people who are already on their knees farther down on their knees, and it worked very effectively. And the lawsuit actually worked in the sense of getting its aim, because it was nobody thought it had a chance, and I'm sure the IDB lawyers didn't think it had a chance, but they were so embarrassed. And what they did was, it was low-hanging fruit from a political standpoint. I mean, they had absolutely no justification. And when there was this threat of the lawsuit, they didn't say, oh, we're going to lose this lawsuit. They said, we're going to be creamed in the press. And they released the loans. The problem was, by the time they released them, the second thing, this coup d'etat, was too far ahead of time. And, with the processes you need to get the projects back up going, that didn't happen before the coup d'etat happened. The restitution claim, yes, the restitution claim, I think that was one of the reasons why France participated in the overthrow. It was much more cost effective to get rid of the president who was making a claim. He wasn't technically making a legal claim, because there actually wasn't really anywhere he could make the claim. But he was making a moral claim, like we were doing, it was compelling enough of legal way, or the legal case made a compelling enough moral claim that France had to get rid of the guy rather than try to come up with a moral response.
Which of course is what led to the MINUSTA, which is what led to the
Exactly.
So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
If we don't have the history narrative, which you have in your
So this is a personal thing. I guess one answer to your question is the personal answer. So from 1995 to 2004, I was working in Haiti trying to make the justice system work. We, meaning everybody's working on the justice system, we actually made spectacular advances in those 9 years. 2004, coup d'etat comes in. Everybody, the judges, the prosecutors, the police, who've been working to make the system work. If they were lucky, they got kicked out. If they weren't lucky, they got shot or jailed. The coup d'etat completely upended work, and the same thing in public health. Across the board, democracy had been working, and it was intentionally made not to work by our administration, because we didn't like the ways that democracy was working. The government was doing too much of trying to build the public sector and health and education and other horrible things. And so when that happened, my response was, I love living in Haiti, but I said my role is to come back to the United States. I'm no use in Haiti. As long as our president can kidnap Haiti's president because he doesn't like his economic policies, nothing in Haiti is sustainable. And so I said my role as an American is to take those lessons and come back and have this happen. Because, and Paul was one of these people. It was like 6 of us Americans who were screaming in the wilderness. We knew the coup was coming. We were screaming in the wilderness, and no one cared. The journalists, the human rights community, academics, across the board, all the people who should have said, hey, there's this coup coming, and no one did. And so basically, this is my mission in life, and this is how you stop that from happening. Whether the same thing would happen again if no foreseeable Haitian government is going to make that claim for restitution of the debt. Not because it's gotten any legally less compelling, not because the government needs money less. They're just not going to get overthrown. But one of the things we need to do as Americans is we need to make our country safe for democracy in Haiti. We need to make our country respect the fact that the Haitian government will stand up for its cholera victims, will stand up for its claim for restitution of the independence debt. And so, what the answer to that isn't, I think you should think about when you're filing a lawsuit, is this going to be a total waste of money? Is this going to cause a coup d'etat? Those are considerations that you should make. That doesn't mean don't ever file lawsuits because there might be a coup d'etat. It's think of this in the bigger context, and how does it make a stronger buffer against illegal interference by the U.S.?
Oui, bon, c'est vrai pour l'Assemblée moyen légal yo semblé yo pas marcher, même pas quoi ça. Et nous avons l'autre bagaille pour nous faire encore. Et c'est expérience choléra, et expérience m'a fait avec victime, mesdames qui porter petite pour garder petite pour casquer bleu yo. qui dans discrimination, pas de moyen pour aider ti moun yo à l'école, gen soin de santé. Ça pour vrai j'aime tout. Et m'a expliqué.
Yeah. So there's in those cases the legal processes, formal legal claims might not have worked, but there's always something you can do. There's always some cases you can do. Color is an example. Another one we're working on is cases of paternity by peacekeepers.
Et par exemple, moi me te dit et mon ailleurs, c'est vrai qu'il y a un pile problème, mais faut nous garder solution yo. Bon, il y a une solution où te ban mwen et pour l'eau et ça fait nous arriver côté nous dans choléra. Où te apprendre mon travail comme avocat avec docteur yo.
So, and there's always things we can do. We've got to do them. And one of the things that made us successful in the cholera case was something that you taught me, and it was collaborating with doctors.
Et m'a continué à travailler avec Michel Moss et dans l'université l'autre boyo et pour nous voir comment avocat ka travaille. Et ça te marché dans choléra. C'est pour nous continuer à faire travail ça.
And I've actually got a program with Michelle Morris. We're working with the state, not medical, the state medical faculty about how lawyers and doctors can collaborate together on justice.
Mais gon problème tout, nous même progressistes yo. Et non ti gens négligents, non ti gens c'est pas fan on quitter ça et passer comme ça. Donc comment sujet non? Et nous quitter coup d'état 2004 la fête, elle était claire que Haïti pas dans la guerre, pas de problème et nous quitter le fait.
And we got to think of what our role is as progressives. I mean, we can pick and choose what we're working on, but how can we let go of the fact that you had this coup d'état that was totally illegal that happened in 2000?
Moi-même, excusez, me développe un réflexe. Depuis, on dit, excusez, le gouvernement américain me dit c'est diable. Je ne pas collaborer.
So is the camera off? Can I turn this off? No. So I've kind of developed this reflex, and you'll have to excuse me, but when someone says American government, I hear the devil.
C'est fini. Donc, c'est nous-mêmes qui pour des fois nous collaborer, nous collaborer avec eux et pour faire ces affaires dans pays tant en Afrique, Haïti, nous responsables en quelque sorte.
And if we're collaborating with the American government on some other things, we've got to think, well, perhaps we're complicit in some way.
Parce que nous te fait qu'à choléra, nous te journalistes, j'aime bien expliquer là, journalistes, grand journalistes, te comprendre parce que l'un te fait commencer avec choléra. En Haïti, tout le monde pense qu'ils sont fous, sont stupides. Ça ne va pas le faire là. Mais journée aujourd'hui, ils sont tous d'accord avec nous faire grand pas. Ils sont d'accord que nous gagnons premier parti. Même gens qui étaient plus hésitants.
And you can really change the underlying conditions through this kind of work. And us, it was the combination of the lawsuit and media work. At the beginning, when we first filed our claims, everybody thought I was crazy. And but by doing both processes, we've really changed the mentalities. And now even the people who were most skeptical or most resistant when we filed the case now admit that we've made a step in the right direction.
Il est clair que Nations Unies gagne quoi pour le payer pour peacekeeper, soi-disant, et pour ministère 7 milliards dans 4 ans. Je n'ai pas bon chiffre. Dans 13 ans. Mais il n'y a pas de quoi pour dédommager les victimes. Pour qu'ils n'ont pas demandé, en 20 euros et force aller, c'est pour gagner quoi pour dédommager, parce qu'il y a bien dommage collatéral quand même, ils connaissent.
And there's broad acceptance now that, the UN says it doesn't have any money, there's broad recognition that they've spent $7 billion on a peacekeeping mission. So BIA's $4 billion was since cholera broke out, but since 2004, the mission spent $7 billion. But they don't have any money. They have $7 billion for a peacekeeping mission in a country that's never had a war, but don't have money for the cholera victims. And there's actually a groundswell of support saying, in the country saying, how can they leave without quitting this debt?
Yo connaît gagné soldats yo a fait petit, y a violé. Donc pour qui ça? Yo augmenté misère Haïti lorsque gagné des filles, des jeunes filles qui étaient sous compte parents yo. Et koulia qui viennent l'autre petit monde et ça grave là, c'est des petits blancs et non pays qui noirs et moun soit discriminé. Donc c'est un bail qui vraiment grave, mais il faut qu'il y ait moyen pour nous résoudre le problème ça yo. Nous pas camper devant yo comme ça.
And that's opened the door for broader public recognition of other issues, such as the peacekeeper fraternity issues, where we've got people, they're young girls who were, so young they were living at home. Now they've got babies by peacekeepers, and a lot of them are not only are they not getting any support from the father, a lot of the kids are lighter skinned kids in a country of darker skinned people, and they're subject to perhaps discrimination as well.
Koulia, c'est pour comment nous goumé pour nous changer monstre là. Et tout le monde ouais son monstre dans Nations Unies, c'est comment pour nous changer monstre là ou bien si nous retirer le devant nous ou bien changer le. Et dans le sens et peuple yo. Et pas dans le sens et multinational yo. Monstre.
Okay. So one of the things we have to do is figure out how do we confront this monster, because a lot of these policies have really been monstrous, and we need to deal with the international organization, but also the country behind those policies.
Okay, let's give Mona the last word before we end.
You get the last word. Okay, I'm putting myself on a stopwatch for 1 minute. So I'll try to keep to it. So I'm going to dismiss the niceties and just give you the 4 punchlines that I want to give in the next minute. Punchline number 1, I think it would be a mistake to continue to challenge the immunity, a fundamental mistake. If there's going to be any further litigation, I think you need to go after Section 29 and solely Section 29 and the UN position on it. The US submissions create ample opportunity, and the oral hearings, I think, are proof of that. Number 2, and I'm happy to discuss further in terms of how to proceed with that, the role of the U.S., I think, is extremely critical. The amount of political pressure that was put in terms, understandably, the U.S. would pay an inordinate proportion of whatever compensation package if it were to be deemed an obligatory package and not a voluntary package. The U.S. pressure in this story has somehow been left out when it's, in fact, a critical part of the story. So we need to refocus on that. The fact that the senators and the congressmen are paying attention, despite the irony that it was actually the U.S., that there's the stop clock. Shut up. Anyway, so that point made, you can read between the lines. The last is mathematical justice. I think the numbers speak greater than the words. 9,000 dead, 750,000 infected. If you talk about cholera, they're going to deflect about rehabilitation and building infrastructure. Talk about the dead, talk about the ill, talk about the money that you just talked about. That's a powerful story. 7 billion versus 400 million that they can't even raise. And last but not least, accountability in terms of identify the people that should have done something different, the behavioral challenge that our colleague over there talked about, and ask them to voluntarily give $2 million. Ban Ki-moon should give $2 million. Muley should give $1 million. Nepal should give $20 million. The contractor should give $20 million. The U.S. for obstructing justice should give at least $10 million. And then every member state who sat quietly by while only St. Vincent and the Grenadines made an issue out of this year after year in the General Assembly, $1 million. Put a price tag on the silence. Put a price tag on the complicity.
Do you want to just respond to the Appropriations
Oh,
Committee?
thank you, Mona. So you guys...
Can we do like one 20-second response to that?
Yes,
It's
please,
actually
do.
a very important addendum that was brought up.
Yeah, which is due to time. We didn't at all get into the U.S. advocacy, but that is a big part of our focus right now and has been for the last 6 years. And one great development that we just found out about, I guess, yesterday, is that the Senate Appropriations Committee, as was mentioned, there's $40 million left over in MINUSTA's underspend. UN tried to get it to be reassigned to cholera. Member states said no under the leadership of the U.S., who was the biggest opponent of this. We just found out that the Senate Appropriations Committee is trying to overrule the U.S. mission on this by putting this in their appropriations bill for 2018. And so we're now onto the House, and we're going to fight this. But the very fact that this even made it into the appropriations bill in today's Congress in the United States is a pretty enormous victory. So that's really exciting. Just a plug to please visit timetodeliver.org. This is our campaign that's now refocusing on member states in general and has some of this kind of breakdown of what different governments owe and what they've done so far, kind of tracking the statements they've made, the ways that they failed in an attempt to spread the accountability conversation further and not only kind of target it at the UN as this amorphous body, but just start personalizing it a little bit more. So this is a 28-day countdown until MINUSTA leaves, which has been kind of our call to action, but obviously we'll continue beyond that as well. Thank you.
That's okay, no worries.
respond to it too. One of the things that I think is very important about you getting Alston on board is that he responded to the point that I think Farmer was saying earlier too, which is that we have to stop the lawyers from being part of the problem. And, you know, if you read his report, as you obviously have, it just thumps the lawyers that, you know, you guys were the agents of injustice. And I'm just wondering, you know, as we think about who do we need to go after and we're worrying about professional complicity, you know, who do you think we need to go after from the lawyerly point of view that you maybe don't do it, but the rest of us do? Because you're in a position where you're trying to gather support, but others can call out.
Well, I think I'll refrain from criticizing opposing counsel, but with that silence, you can infer what our opinions are on that. I mean, I think Edmund Millay is one example of somebody. He was the person who headed up MINUSTA at the time of the outbreak and was since promoted to be the chef de cabinet of Ban Ki-moon's cabinet and has continued to hold positions within the UN. And so we see the ways that impunity translates into how individuals who have failed in so many ways continue to be leading the system. And I do think that for the lawyers in the room, there needs to be a serious reckoning about what is the role of the Office of Legal Affairs at the UN and in which ways are they actually upholding the UN's legal obligations and duties vis-a-vis the rest of the world versus being protectionist in a way that's actually damaging to the UN itself and not looking out for the interest of their own client.
So Mario, Brian, Beatrice, Amara, thank you very much. It's really amazing, amazing presentation.